We are just days away from the 2022, and we're talking about etiquette for ringing in the new year. So please welcome the nationally syndicated etiquette columnist, Mr. Manners, Thomas Farley.
Yes! Hey, Thomas, what's up, man?
Hi, everyone.
Good to see you. We're just admiring like all your holiday cards in the background. You got the fire going. Okay, so Mr. Manners, with flights getting canceled and stress at, let's just call it what it is, at an all-time high, what tips do you have for holiday travelers this New Year's?
Sure. So to ensure everyone is on their best behavior, it's vital. And you did the segment just a couple of days ago on the woman mask shaming the man on the plane. She wasn't wearing hers. He was eating. We need those creature comforts. So the more you can do to drop out of the experience, you want your neck pillow, you want your music, you want your noise canceling headphones, you want to make as many movies as you can possibly download. Make that experience as enjoyable for you, because frankly, flying is no longer enjoyable. I don't care what airline you're flying, what airport you're flying out of, it's pretty miserable. So the better mood, the better spirit you can be, the better able and the better equipped you will be to handle the stresses that are surely going to happen on your journey.
Mr. Manners, have you ever flown first class? Because it's a totally different experience. It is. I've only been...
It surely is. You're absolutely right. It surely is a very different experience. But even in first class, you're dealing with the getting to the airport, the traffic there, the dealing with the TSA. There are going to be lines. There are going to be frustrations. There are going to be canceled flights. We see with all the flight attendants having to call in sick because of COVID cancellation. So even in first class, that can happen.
I'm the guy with the loud family at the back of the bus. So if you're having guests over for New Year's Eve, is there a polite way to ask their vaccination status?
That's a great question.
Is that something that we could handle this New Year's?
Yes, Jeff, this is definitely the year for all of us to think about celebrating safely. So just as we just spoke about with Oprah and Gail, with the birthday party for Gail's grandson, this is absolutely vital that you as a party planner are checking into things such as people's vaccination status. Boosted? If they're not, are they comfortable wearing a mask? Are they willing to take a COVID test the day of your party? All of this data is this intel that you gather. This is information for you, but it's also information for your other guests as well. And so you, as a responsible host, of course, you're looking out for the enjoyment of your guests, but you're also this year more than ever looking out for their well-being. And how can you possibly do that unless you have that information? You then take that info and you set down standards. And it may be, frankly, that your standards just aren't strict enough for some guests who are following stricter standards in their lives. Other guests may feel, you know what, your standards are too strict and I don't feel like following them. That's all good, but you set that baseline, you don't deviate from it, so you don't make exceptions for people. And that way, there are no unpleasant surprises for anyone, and we don't make this an Auld Lang Syk rather than an Auld Lang Syne when we gather for the new year.
Well said.
All right, well, Thomas, I have to ask you, what about our unvaccinated brothers and sisters? You know, like how do we politely uninvite them?
Sure. So Al, and this is a great question. And I would say ideally you don't uninvite because you haven't invited them in the first place until you know what everybody's status is. You start off, you're just gathering information. Once you've gathered that information, you make your decisions. What are my standards going to be? And it may be that you're comfortable having unvaccinated guests there, if that's your standard, providing they take that test, providing they are willing to wear a mask. If they say, I'm not vaccinated and I don't like your standards, okay, well, then they're not included in the gathering. But I still think there are ways to include them virtually, on Zoom, on FaceTime, or even the next day, you prepare that little thoughtful, if they live locally, a little care package of leftovers from the party the night before so they can still feel like they were part of the experience in a different way.
I like that.
I'm reading a book called Set Boundaries, Find Peace, and these all sound like boundaries. These are really good for me.
My boundary is reading that book.
Okay. Before we go, we do have to know what New Year's resolutions Mr. Manners makes for 2022. So what are yours and what advice do you have for DBL Nation?
Oh gosh, Tori. Well, you know, I'll tell you, there are such little things that we can all do that are so much easier than having to worry about exercising more or, losing weight the way that we want to lose weight. I think, frankly, if we can make a resolution to make sure we don't engage in these difficult conversations any longer. We remain more pleasant. So I think if you avoid the politics, not this present panel excluded, of course, from the conversation, you like that banter.
Right.
But for our everyday lives, there are long repercussions for those difficult conversations. So rather than engaging, You're not going to change opinions at this point in time. Opinions are baked in on politics, on masking. I would rather respond with something like, you don't say, or I hear you, or how interesting. And you leave it at that.
I love that.
You don't remember the little touches, the please, the thank yous,
Yes.
the sorries. Those little things go such a long way.
Can we get a close-up of Jeff and you? Because our viewers are writing in left and right saying how much you guys look alike.
Yeah, you guys look alike.
You guys are twins.
You don't
think
say.
so?
You guys are twins.
You don't say.
Yeah.
He's the good
I'm very
version
flattered.
of me. If there's like a movie,
Wow.
He is the good version.
Thank
Yeah.
you, Mr. Manners. We'll be right back
that's a
with Heart
compliment,
Threads.
Mr. Manners.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Thanks.